I wanted to talk about a really hard thing that I did and what I learned from it. So, this was going to law school. Basically, I graduated high school and I went to college. And the college I went to was only a half hour from my house. I stayed there, but it was a half hour from my house. Like, I stayed overnight there, lived on campus, but it wasn't far from my house. So the reality is I didn't really go that far away. I ended up having a car. I had the accessibility to get home when I wanted to see friends, family, anybody I wanted to. So really, I went away to college, but I didn't really go away. And when it was time to go to law school, I had applied to a law school that, again, wouldn't be like terribly far away. It was going to be in New York City, so it'd still be accessible to get home. But I didn't get into that law school. I was actually waitlisted there. And I applied to another law school sort of late in the process up in Boston. And I got into that law school. So here I was faced with this decision to move away up to Boston to go to law school, which is, 5-6 hours from where I lived. It wasn't going to be feasible for me to have a car there. I wouldn't have the accessibility to be near family, near friends. I didn't know anyone in Boston. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have any friends at all that lived there. I knew nothing about the city. I'd never even been to the city before. And, was I going to do that? Or was I going to take the chance with the school that I was waitlisted at? And I'll never forget calling and talking to somebody in admissions. And the woman said to me, it was really competitive that year. I'm sure it's always competitive, right? And she said, if you got into another school, you should go there. And I'll never forget, just the pit of my stomach, really? So basically, if I really want to go to law school, I have to take this big jump and go all the way up to Boston, to this town the city I've never been in, don't know anyone there. It was really scary. And I did it. I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. I mean, this is what am I going to do next year if I don't do this, if I don't get into this other school? What am I going to do? I'm just going to do it. Let me go for the sure thing. Oh boy, I had no idea how hard that was going to be, though. So that was the interesting thing about this is, that initial feeling of dread, I gotta go do something uncomfortable. Okay, whatever. All right, I think I can do this. All right, I'm going to go do this. I never realized how difficult it truly was going to be away from home for the first time ever, not having that accessibility just to get back to my parents, get back to what was comfortable, what I knew. And was it hard. So I get up to Boston, I rented how to rent an apartment. There was no campus housing. So here I am living on my own. I got my own apartment, this city. I don't know anyone, don't know anything, going to law school, which is hard as well, right? Law school, not easy. So all these new things just thrown into it. And I was so homesick. I remember just that feeling of homesickness every day, just crying, just talking to family, wanting to be next to them, just feeling so alone in this new experience, this new place. It would have been hard had I been living at home, but here I'm dealing with going to law school, this new experience in this place where I just feel alone and lost. And I ended up, for the first time in my life, my parents, my mom was like, why don't you go to a therapist? I think you should go to therapy. And so I did. I found a therapist, and she was really amazing. I'll never forget it. I only went for a few months. I think I was under my dad's health insurance and only covered a few months. And but I'll tell you what, it was the best thing I ever did. So I'll never forget going to see her and just really feeling I don't know, I need somebody to help me here. I can't continue to stay feeling like this. Just can't do it. And I'll never forget her saying to me, what if you just quit school, right? Because I felt really stuck. I felt I'm here. I made this decision. I have to go to school. I have no choice. I'm in this. She said, well, what if you quit school? What would that look like? And she gave me basically an alternate, vision to look at, what that would feel like, what that would look like. And then also well, what if you stuck with it and you went through with it? And we obviously talked about much more than this, and she helped me through a lot to get through it. But through my sessions with her, I felt more comfortable, more like I had more ideas of how to meet people, how to make Boston start to feel like a second home, find the social communities that would support me through these big changes. Get out there in this city that seems so big. How could I get out there to find community, to find support, and to find what I needed at that point in time, which was to, break away from my home, do this big thing where I'm breaking away from my home and everything I knew, and really learn how to embrace all these new things and to charter, this territory I'd never been in. And it wasn't going to be easy, and I knew that. And I just made it through. And I think what this showed me is really, it's amazing what we're capable of. I don't think we always give ourselves the credit of, what we can do when we are really backed up against the wall, like in the most uncomfortable situation where we could make a choice that would bring us probably to an easier path. Like just what's capable if we choose that road that's going to be a little bit bumpier with some more unknowns, but to get us to what we, know, right? I knew I've had 3 years of law school, and that's what I was set out to do, is to, start law school, go through law school, graduate from law school. So there was like an end in sight, right? It wasn't like this was like my forever situation. I mean, basically, this was a great opportunity. And in order to seize it, I had to get past like some of these really uncomfortable things that were just tearing apart my like heart and soul, because I just could not in some of those moments just figure out how I would feel okay with myself, how I would feel whole, how I would feel connected to this really large thing that just seemed so immense. And to these new things, again, I'll never forget, like going to law school was a real wake-up call. It was a lot different than college. It was a lot more difficult. The homework I had, just being called on in class and just feeling really intimidated by some of these professors. Oh boy, it was tough. You had your name card in front of you and you were just like, oh my God, am I going to get called on? Like all of these things. But like, I was able to get past it. I was able to figure out how to forge my path, how to maneuver around these things that were uncomfortable and new to me, and create something that became familiar, right? By the time I graduated, and make new friends, so many new friends, see new places. I remember I got a season winter pass to the Frog Pond, which is where you can ice skate in the winter. And I lived in the Back Bay area, which was beautiful. And doing these new things, exploring that area, really embracing everything that was there, because I was in the heart of the city. I mean, what a great opportunity to live in this area, in the city, at this age, right? So I was, young. I was 20, 22, like, to have these experiences. So it just really showed me what I was capable of. And I think learning that and seeing that is amazing as a human being, because you start to realize that if I can do something like this that just seemed like the biggest wall, seemed so difficult, seemed so challenging in those moments, if I could do that, what's the next thing I can do? And then what's the next thing I can do after that? So had I not gone to Boston for law school, I don't know what would have happened. Maybe I would have gotten to the law school in New York City. Maybe I would have done something else. I don't know. Who knows? But I know for sure, I'm pretty sure, I probably wouldn't force myself to move to a whole new city without knowing anybody there. This forced me to do that. And that really made me grow as a person. And I couldn't be more thankful that that is how things played out. That's how it all worked out. And I ended up actually staying in the Boston area for a while. I ended up going to more school there. I ended up meeting now my wife, meeting her there. And I'm not in the Boston area anymore. But it became like a really big part of my life, living in and around that area, exploring that area. So I'm grateful. Grateful for that hurdle that life threw at me so that I could become who I am today, because that is definitely a big piece of what makes me. and what helped me become who I am. So I guess with this, I challenge you to accept being uncomfortable, accept sometimes being in those situations that you know are going to probably help make you a better person, help you become who you're going to be. Like, just, we're capable of so much more we give ourselves credit for. And when we push those boundaries and we do the uncomfortable thing, it really gives us a sense of confidence I think we all deserve to have.